make your way to a seat. Welcome to the Town of Ponce Inlet's Town Hall meeting. We are delighted that you are here this evening. The meeting will run until 8 o'clock p.m. and we hope that you find the information helpful and also see this town hall as an opportunity to ask the questions to us, council members and staff, that are of importance to you. I would ask that everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin with the State of the Town address, I would like to provide a brief introduction of the individuals here this evening from our town government. Your council is seated throughout. We have our Vice Mayor Gary Smith, Council Member Bill Milano, Council Member Liz Caswell, and Council Member Joe Villanella. We also have here representatives of our town boards. They are comprised of residents who volunteer their time and provide an invaluable service to all of us. Each will have the opportunity of explaining their role on their respective boards. We have Joe Cannon at the end, who is the chair of the planning board. And I have Pete Finch, who is the chair of code enforcement. And I am, there he is, okay, oh, thank you. I have Stacy Bell, chair of our cultural services, and Ryan McConaughey of our essential services advisory board. We also have our town staff here representing our some of our departments, our interim manager and planning and development director, Mike Disher, public safety director pro tem and fire chief Dan Scales, police chief Jeff Glazier, public works general manager Fred Griffith, deputy clerk Peg Hunt, and fire department office manager and town website administrator Becky Hubble. This is the representatives of your town government here this evening, and after our presentations, you will have an opportunity for questions and answers. So, I would like to provide you with our State of the Town address. So, good evening, residents, neighbors, fellow council members, department heads, and staff members. Thank you for gathering with us for tonight's town hall meeting. In keeping with tradition, it is an honor and a privilege to be presenting the annual State of the Town address to you this evening. When we look back on 2022, it will forever be remembered as a year that we came together as a community as we met the challenges we faced after two powerful hurricanes impacted our area within 48 days. The skill and perseverance exhibited by our town staff, combined with a remarkable display of kindness and community spirit, carried us through two devastating, record-setting weather events. The impacts of property damage, flooded roads, and the erosion of our beaches and dunes affirm the importance of continuing to build on our resiliency accomplishments, as I will outline tonight. Our quaint and tranquil little town fought back with the courage of a lion. One compassionate gesture at a time, neighbors helping neighbors, residents supporting and encouraging our staff made all the difference in the world. When faced with enormous challenges, small gestures make an enormous difference. I have heard and witnessed countless stories of simple acts of kindness. A hot cup of coffee, a meal, a place to sleep, help filling a sandbag, checking on a neighbor's property, charging a mobile device, sharing groceries, and in so many other ways, our residents sought to ease the hardship their friends and neighbors faced. I am proud to live in this community and proud of the way we cared for each other as our staff worked literally around the clock to restore our services and clear our streets. After 21 inches of rain fell in 24 hours, our stormwater and drainage systems were temporarily pushed beyond their capacity. The strenuous efforts of our public works staff focused on pumping multiple sites for weeks, which helped mitigate the catastrophic damage we sustained. Our town incurred approximately $800,000 worth of expenses related to the damage of town-owned property and storm debris pickup. As of January 18th, our building division issued 138 emergency repair permits related to storm damage. The town has waived almost $28,000 in permit fees to assist property owners with repairs. Our police officers and firefighters rescued residents from flooded homes, performed well-being checks, and assisted the Public Works Department with their pumping efforts. Many of our staff members left their own storm-damaged homes to report to work, leaving behind their own family members who were left to face significant hardships of their own. The dedication and professionalism they displayed during these events serves to remind us of how fortunate we are to have them here. You may well recall during the last State of the Town address, I addressed those residents who may have been harboring concerns over rumors spreading in the community that your council was seeking to get rid of your fire department. Tonight, I am proud to announce that for the first time in 22 years, the town has entered into a contract with Local 4140, our Ponce Inlet Firefighters Union. These dedicated men and women are cherished members of this community, and our residents can be assured that they will always be here in their time of need, no matter what time of the day or night. Not only do we want them here, we want them to have the best equipment, facilities, and training available. Tonight, I am pleased to announce that in December, your town council approved measures to begin exploring all available funding and grant opportunities that will result in the construction of a brand new, modern firehouse built specifically to support our professional firefighters and medics. They are always here for us, and we will always support them as well. As we begin the planning stage of a new fire station, we mark another milestone and affirm our ongoing commitment toward building a resilient Ponce Inlet. 2 years ago, we commissioned a comprehensive vulnerability assessment that identified critical community assets, such as our fire station. The vulnerability assessment is a required prerequisite to apply for funding not only a new fire station, but eventually a new community center as well. Other resiliency measures include funding requests for stormwater improvements, pumps, drains, and equipment to help during severe weather events such as those we faced in 2022. In May of last year, the town was awarded a Resilient Florida grant, and work is expected to begin on our watershed master plan early this year. Once completed, the plan will examine the impacts on our stormwater drainage system from existing and expected development, various long-duration rainfall events, and projected sea level rise. The plan will also help the town further improve its rating through the National Flood Insurance Program. This is a clear example of how our work on resiliency has already benefited our residents in the form of substantial discounts on their flood insurance premiums. In terms of our financial status, For the 5th year, the town received another perfect, comment-free annual financial audit from our CPA firm, thanks to the efforts of our finance director, Kim McCall, and her team. Our property taxes remain among the lowest in Volusia County, with our millage rate set at 5.3 and a composite rate of 17.84. Ponce Inlet is the 7th lowest out of the 17 primary local government services districts, many of which do not provide their own police, fire, and EMS services. Our commitment to delivering quality services is evident in the progress that has been made toward the accreditation of our fire department. A key accreditation milestone, the community risk assessment, is now 90% complete. Ponce Inlet is well on its way to being the only municipality in Volusia County to provide its own accredited police and fire departments. This is a remarkable achievement of which we should all be proud. Led by Fire Chief Dan Scales, our paramedics and firefighters transported over 600 patients in 2022, providing a life-saving service to our community. In a remarkable display of their skills and capabilities during Ian and Nicole, when the county EMS suspended transport operations, our staff members continued to provide service on an as-needed basis when local conditions permitted. Under the leadership of Police Chief Jeff Glazier, the Ponce Inlet Police Department's average response time for 2022 was just 4 minutes and 39 seconds. Our residents are comforted to know that when they need help, our police officers respond quickly and are always there for them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For those residents who enjoy seeing our police officers around town, and you can count me as one of them, we can all look forward to seeing some of them on bicycle patrol in 2023. The town has purchased 2 new police bicycles and sent 4 of our officers to bicycle training. So when you see them around town on 2 wheels, be sure to give them a wave, a smile, and your encouragement for all they do every day to keep us safe. In August, our Public Works Department welcomed a new manager, Fred Griffith. In addition to Fred's credentials as an engineer, he brings decades worth of public works experience focused on water distribution and project management. Fred's arrival has heralded a new direction and new capabilities for our Public Works Department. He oversees a staff of 9 dedicated public service employees who perform a wide range of services to beautify and maintain our town. Following Hurricanes Nicole and Ian, Public Works has been collaborating with the town's engineering consultants, Mead and Hunt, to conduct a thorough assessment of our drainage systems. We know how disruptive and dangerous flooded streets can be, and our Public Works Department is dedicated to making sure we are doing everything we possibly can to mitigate the impact of severe weather. Completion of the Ponce de Leon's Circle Septic to Sewer project will soon mark another major achievement for the town toward its infrastructure and resiliency goals. 2022 was another productive year for your council, passing several new ordinances and taking action on quality of life and safety issues. In January, Ordinance 2022-02 established regulations for bicycles, e-bikes, and micro-mobility devices, including a 10-mile-per-hour speed limit on the town sidewalks. Ordinance 2022-07 established zoning districts and regulations for food trucks as mandated by state law. Ordinances 2022-06 and 08 waived fees and expedited emergency permitting to help our residents in the aftermath of Ian and Nicole. In 2022, Council held 2 town hall meetings, which included all 5 of your council members, as well as department heads and key staff members. These events were well attended and provided a less formal setting for our residents to ask questions, voice concerns, and get to know the staff members who work so hard for us. Council also responded to resident concerns over illegal short-term rentals. 2 new positions were created, including a rental housing inspection officer and an administrative assistant to focus on violations of our rental regulations. The growing threats to municipal governments posed by cybersecurity and ransomware were addressed as well in 2022. Led by IT Director Randy Oakham, we took measures to protect our data, our servers, and our digital infrastructure. In 2023, we look forward to the unveiling of the town's new website and increased social media presence, thanks to the efforts of website administrator Becky Hugler. Under the leadership of Jackie French, the town's Cultural Services Department, with the invaluable assistance of community volunteers, hosted 51 special programs for residents and co-sponsored 10 events during 2022. This includes lectures, programs, classes, dedications, and ceremonies which were well attended. Our community values its heritage and the unique culture that distinguishes our simple way of life by the sea. The tree lighting ceremony and children's Christmas party capped off a year of remarkable work on the part of our cultural services staff. In October, our town manager, Janine Witt, resigned after 12 years of dedicated service to our community. Janine shepherded us through one of the most difficult periods in our history and left behind a legacy of financial strength and a team of professionals who continue to serve our residents with distinction. Interim Town Manager Mike Disher and Public Safety Director Pro Tem Dan Scales have both done a remarkable job since day one as the town continues to work with an executive search firm to assist us in hiring a new manager. At the time we began the transition, I spoke of the importance of there being no disruption in the high level of service that our residents have come to expect. I believe we have achieved this goal thanks to their hard work and dedication. As we begin 2023 together, our future has never been brighter. With aggregate property values now in excess of $1.1 billion, more people have chosen to make Ponce Inlet their home than ever before. After all the hardships that came our way last year, we have laid the foundation for making 2023 a year of continued progress and improvement. Your entire council, along with our dedicated staff and all of our community volunteers, are ready to work to preserve, protect, and ensure the prosperity of our shared home, Ponce Inlet, Florida. Thank you. And if I may, I see that we do have a special guest with us this evening, Daytona Beach Shores Mayor Nancy Miller. If you could just stand up for us. I want everyone to realize that Mayor Miller and I have been working together on so many of our shared issues and the concerns during and after the hurricanes, whether it was coordinating representatives to speak with our residents from the Small Business Association and FEMA, to meeting with our local, our county, our state, and our federal elected officials and staff. I want you to realize just how important Mayor Miller has been to us. She's a good friend to me and a good friend to the town of Ponce Inlet. Thank you for coming, and thank you for working. And now I would like to turn the mic over to our interim manager, Mike Disher, who will provide us with an update on our hurricane damage situation. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Yeah, what I'm going to do is just give a brief update on some information that I've learned from Volusia County and how that affects the town. Then turn it over to Chief Scales for some additional information, and then also our Public Works Director, Fred Griffith, for updates on the upcoming projects. So, just briefly, during Hurricane Nicole, we fortunately had to declare 9 buildings unsafe. Is that good? Okay.
Mike, a little louder,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, right up there, got it. All right, that's really strange, but okay. So, yeah, nine buildings were unsafe, uninhabitable by the waves and coastal erosion underneath. But since then, 5 buildings have now been declared safe. So that's a good thing. That works a lot better. Thank you. So that's good news. They've had their engineers prepare reports for us that they can then take a look at it and determine that these buildings are now safe to be inhabited. I just want to pass that along. You may have heard about the large sum of money that the county provided, that the state of Florida provided to Volusia County. We've had some questions from residents about, well, where's our share? Unfortunately, I confirmed this with the county manager today, that only goes to the county government itself, because they are the ones that maintain the beach. It was, you jokingly said, if the town wants to start maintaining the beach, then you can have some too. But it's really, the county maintains the entire beach. So that money was delivered from the state of Florida to the county to maintain that beach. And if you haven't heard already, that was over 1/3 of that $100 million that was allocated to all counties affected. So that's a huge sum of money. What we learned from that is from that money, some of it is going to be going to beach renourishment, especially where it's needed the most. The rest is going to be used in preparation for design and permitting for the rest of the money that's needed. The state of Florida has issued a recovery plan for the beaches across the state that were affected by hurricanes Ian and Nicole. For the Volusia County portion, the total that the state estimates is over $77 billion. So to get that money, the county then has to use what they were given initially to prepare the plan, and so it'll be used in the right way. Because the stretches of beaches are all different up and down the county. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They have to essentially design and permit what they're going to do with all that sand, just like any person would do with their property. So yeah, what we also learned, phase 1 that the county's going to be doing is restoring the elevation of the beach. The beach had between 2 and 8 feet eroded. It's now that much lower than it was. So the first step is bringing that level back up to where it was, and they believe they can do that. Then the second phase would be restoring the dunes themselves. So that's how they intend to progress. So if you haven't seen it already, the county has a wonderful webpage on beach recovery. It's right there if you go to the county website, volusia.org. It's in the little red ribbon across the top. We also have a link to that on the town's webpage that has all kinds of information available about loans and grants for individual property owners, things you can do, just updates on the recovery, what's open, what's closed still, that sort of thing. There's even some videos about it, outlines in more detail about what their future plans are. So we, of course, as a town, we don't have jurisdiction on the beach. So we have to work in partnership with the county to make sure it gets done the right way. So our role as a town is to facilitate and coordinate with the county and other agencies to make sure that's done for the property owners on the beach. So that's really it. I'll turn it over to Chief Scales now if you have anything else to add.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. One thing I want to mention about the beach issue and some of the homes that were damaged and lost their seawalls on the beach, and there's quite a few of them. We're actually talking with the Florida Department of Emergency Management to get some tiger dams possibly deployed here in town. If you haven't seen them, and the Shores has them. I know they're going to be putting some in New Smyrna right now. They're the big orange blobs on the beaches. I guess that's the best way to describe them. And they act kind of as a barrier to some of the wave action that's coming up. So we're going to be meeting with EM next week and doing an assessment on what properties are still out there that may benefit from that mitigation process. And we'll be reaching out to the homeowners that might be interested in us putting them out there. So we're pretty excited about that. It's going to help hopefully prevent any further damage to folks' properties and seawalls that have suffered damage because of the storms. With that, on the fire department side, the mayor did talk about the accreditation process. The community risk assessment is done. which is part of what we call a standard of cover document, and that document's actually 90% done. We're hoping to have that done within the next few weeks for review by our review team, and hopefully have that published probably 30 days after that. And what that document is, and it'll be on our webpage, you can read that document and it will give you all the information about what your fire department does, the type of risks that we deal with, how they're classified, response times, staffing levels, all the good information at one place for people to look at if you're ever curious about what goes on with the fire department. In addition to that, there's been a lot of discussion about electric vehicles and electrical vehicle fires, and that is a challenge for the fire department. What we've done is actually put some information on the fire department's section of the webpage with some links to other web pages that do a much better job of talking about EV fires, some statistics and things like that. So we thought that was important to get that information out to folks, just in case you're curious, so you can get straight from the horse's mouth. If you have any questions about EV fires and our capabilities, give me a call, stop by the fire station, happy to talk to you about it anytime. And maybe some of you have noticed last week, I think it was about this time last week, or was it 2 weeks? It almost seems like yesterday. We had a little event in the town here. You might have noticed it wasn't a barbecue. I'm sure there's a lot of curiosity about that fire, and I'll give you a couple highlights to it if you don't mind, if you're curious. There was a fire at one of our large homes on the beach. It started early afternoon. Some workers were doing some work. It's still under investigation as far as what the cause was, but we know something got too hot. So when that happens, you usually have fire. What that was, we're still looking at. The challenge with that fire was folks that were working had respirators on. So whatever ignited, they didn't know it was burning. I think it was probably burning for 20 or 30 minutes before anybody noticed it. And by that time, it was very well established. And if you guys have probably seen pictures on social media, that was a very, very well-established active fire. And it was also extremely challenging due to the construction of the building. It was lots of angles and false floors, and it was really, really, really a tough fire to fight. We had our crews were there. We had an engine from the Shores, 2 engines from Port Orange, and Port Orange's aerial apparatus. And we were flowing 2 hydrants at the same time. That's a lot of water. We estimate we probably dumped over 100,000 gallons of water on that fire. And it took us a good 4 hours to finally get it to the point where we could consider it out. And the crew still had to go back out there during the night because of rekindles. It was a challenge. But if you see the building, by all rights, what's there should not be there. That building should have burned to the ground. And there were a couple times I thought it was going to, just because of the way the fire was progressing and some of the challenges that we had. The reason it didn't is because your men and women here, we train virtually every day. Because we don't get a lot of fires. When these folks step off the vehicles, they need to be ready to go to work. And they train every single day. Plus, we have a great working relationship with our sister cities, Daytona Beach Shores being one of them. So when these folks arrive on scene, we operate with them seamlessly. We're familiar with their equipment, they're familiar with ours, and tactics and operations, so everybody just goes to work. So I'm very proud of our firefighters, but I'm also very proud of our neighboring cities that helped with that. And the assignment that we had at that fire was not unusual. A fire of that size, what you saw there as far as apparatus, pretty typical. And the best part is, it's automatic. We don't have to call for anybody, it just happens. So that is what all of this is about, our partnerships, our cooperation, and the things that we do. And again, if it weren't for the support from you in the community, we couldn't do what we do. So I personally want to thank you on behalf of my staff and folks. Thank you for the support that you've given us over the years, and we look forward to serving you forever. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the old new guy. I got here in August, survived 2 hurricanes and a lightning strike, so I feel very fortunate. I've lived here over 40 years. I just wanted to give you a 30-second. I've lived here 40 years with my family. I've been a factoring engineer for over 40 years. I've been in municipal government in this type of work for over 35 years. I've been very familiar with your town. Actually, we moved down here. We were staying with my wife's folks on Inlet Harbor Road over 40 years ago. So, but I learned a lot in the last 5 months. Okay, I had no idea what was going on in Ponce Inlet, but I do now. There's a lot going on in Ponce Inlet. We have 10, as the mayor mentioned, we have 10 people in our department, one being me, and as my guys know, I don't do much work. They want to put some mud on my shirt so I can do some work today, but still I had to look good tonight. But we have an office manager, myself, and we have an hired assistant who pretty much runs the crews, but we actually have 7 guys that get out there and get after everything. I want to mention that if you haven't picked up my 4-page labor of love of what we're doing, the annual report that we gave to our mayor and our council, contains pretty much all the stuff that we've been doing, which is quite a bit. During the hurricanes, we had 4 people on staff around the clock, so we would be here because you couldn't get over the bridges. It was a good thing we were here, so we could recover and get the roads open and take care of the residents. Any of the residents need help support the fire and the police, because we were actually closing and opening roads all the time because the tide went out, the tide would come in, and we're just trying to protect the motorists. And we appreciate most of you who stayed in your homes during that time, because it really wasn't a safe place to be out on the roads right after the hurricanes. So that's kind of the highlights of the hurricanes. Recovery of the hurricanes, which is always a challenge. During the hurricane, all you can do is stay in your building and hope for the best, okay? Generally speaking, when the winds are up that high. We've been continuing repairing the fencing, the electrical systems, and actually electrical systems go down after a hurricane, not immediately. Sometimes they get into the boxes and they start rusting, and then they go down. So our museum went out just a week or so ago. So we are continually working on our electrical systems, which we have. Our lighting, lots of our lights got destroyed, if you noticed around town. We're also communicating with FPL, encouraging them to get our street lights operating, okay? Get all of them operating. So we've had some people ask about additional lighting on Atlantic Avenue, and they're going to look into that as well. The storm pipe cleaning, near and dear to my heart. The commission last week approved the storm pipe cleaning and televising our stormwater systems. Honestly, I had to tell everybody that calls it, what kind of shape was our storm pipes in? I had to tell them, I don't know. But once we clean them and start videotaping them, I will know. And this is something we need to continue to be doing to ensure that we do have a sewer system, stormwater system that works well, okay? It can function, things get old, and as I tell my kids, just because it's old doesn't mean it's any good. It's not any good anymore, okay? But you have to maintain your systems. You have to take a look at them. So we're going to be looking at our stormwater systems. We're going to be looking at our road systems. I met with the paving contractor today, and I'm going to be presenting a lot of new things in the budget next year, as well as a couple additional people. One is for valve exercising. Okay, it's important. The most critical thing when you have a water break, like we had one yesterday in Bacon Point, the most critical thing is not finding the break. Heck, it's easy to find the break. Wherever the water is, that's where it's broken. Okay, all you gotta do is dig a hole. There it is. The challenge is to shut it off. Okay, to find the valves that they're working, and shut it off and isolate the break so you can make the repair, so you can turn the water back on. So we're going to be asking for additional staffing, primarily to address the valving issue, okay? I think our water system's in pretty good shape otherwise. We're doing some other things that I don't have time to, I only have 2 minutes. So, and we're working with our finance director to try to get refunding on all these damages that were done during the hurricane and through our insurance and FEMA. So, and then we're doing all the regular stuff that we were doing before. So if it looks like our guys are running back to their trucks, there's probably a reason. They probably have to head somewhere else to do another job. So I appreciate you. I love this place. I love this town. I had no idea what was going on, but I do now. But I still love the job. And I just want to mention, Dan's been great. Really, he's been a great support, helping me understand how you do things in our town. And Mike and Dan both have been a real good support, a good listening ear. And I think if we implement my programs that I want to propose, I think we're going to be in great shape. Thank you.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. Jeff Glazier. I'm the Chief of Police for the town of Ponce Inlet. This is my 30th year in law enforcement. I did my first 27 in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, and then the next 3 years. So happy to be here. For those of you that don't know, we're a full-service police agency. We have 16 patrol officers, 3 are part-time, and 13 are full-time, including myself. We will always have a minimum of 2 officers patrolling the town 24/7. Some days we have 3, 4, 5, depending on what we have going on in town and the time of the day. But you will always have a minimum of 2 officers that respond to calls for service throughout town. As the mayor mentioned, our response time is excellent. For emergency call, for a priority 1 call, which is the top emergency call that we have, our response time is about 1 minute and 30 seconds. That's our average. For a regular emergency.
A minute and 30 seconds.
And that's only because we had 2 emergency calls.
We need a hand for that.
On all emergency calls, it's 4 minutes and 30 seconds, so still excellent. Dan also talked about accreditation. Accreditation simply means you have policies and procedures in place for everything that you do, and you follow those policies and procedures. It means that you have best practices, the best practices in the country for what you do, for policing, for firefighting. The fire department is going through accreditation now. The police department has been accredited for 14 years. And this year is our re-accreditation year. That means in August of this year, we're going to be audited. We're going to have a team from the ground floor to come in and look at everything we do, look at all of our policies and procedures, look at our facilities. They're going to quiz all of our officers, and at the end of it, they're going to come up with a report, and they're going to say, yes or no, you guys can stay accredited, and that's what we're trying to do. But anyways, I'll be here all night to answer questions and anything that you guys have. You can always call me, you can email me. A lot of residents like to come by the station and just ask questions. I prefer that. I'm not a big fan of social media, of the drama of social media, of the questions on social media that don't get answered. I prefer people come by and just say, hey Chief, what's going on with this? You get a direct answer and you get it quickly. So anyways, thank you and have a good evening.
Is there anything further that you'd like to share over, Vice? No? Okay. Thank you very, very much. What I would like to do now is present to you our advisory boards. Our advisory boards are an integral part of our government. The people that sit on our boards are residents. And what they do, and they're going to explain further with each of them, what each role is that they make recommendations to council for the most part. And they do some heavy lifting, research, they listen and review staff reports, they have meetings. So when you listen, realize that these members of our community are doing just an invaluable service for us. So I would like to start, if I can, Joe, with you with the planning board. You have a mic?
Thank you and good evening. Mayor Paritsky asked me to provide some insight to the responsibilities of the planning board. Our board consists of 5 regular members and 2 alternates. We meet monthly on the 4th Tuesday, and in between if that becomes necessary. Before discussing the board's responsibilities, I'd like to take some time to review 2 documents that are central to the board's activities. We have 2 very extensive public documents as our guidelines. The first is the town's comprehensive plan. By state statute, every municipality must have a comp plan. Our comp plan consists of 9 elements or chapters. In addition to the instructions on how to administer the plan, it addresses topics such as land use, transportation, housing, public facilities, coastal management, just to name a few. The comp plan provides general guidelines on these various topics and can be thought of as a long-term directional document for the town. For example, under the land use category element of the plan, 5 residential categories are outlined. The first is low-density, detached, single-family residential, known as our R1 zone. I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with that, a private residential zone. The guidance that the plan provides is only that up to 3.3 units per acre are allowed. That's all the comp plan says about that residential zone. It's very general, but it's also very inclusive. The second document is the LUDC, or the Land Use and Development Code. This document is also lengthy, detailed, and it provides the specifics to the various topics found in the comp plan. As an example, going back to the low-density single-family residential zone that I just mentioned, the LUDC provides the requirements for the R1 zone, specifically minimum lot size, width, depth, setbacks, front, side, maximum height allowed, lot coverage percentage, and a minimum gross floor area. So that, the LUDC gives us those details about that particular zone. As you can see, these two documents are closely interwoven. The comp plan, I'm going to say 20,000 feet, is inclusive but general in direction, and the LUDC is the treetop level plan that is inclusive and quite detailed. They provide the planning board with their primary points of reference. The board acts as the local planning agency and as an advisory board to the council on matters such as amendments to the zoning map, additions or amendments to the LUDC and the comp plan, and reviewing development plans, such as any new development that's proposed for the town. The board works with the town's planning staff, who does, as the mayor mentioned, research and heavy lifting on each item that comes before us. Mike Disher's group does an extraordinary job in presenting each item that comes to us for review and action. Whether it's we develop the plans, whether it's an amendment to the LUDC or the comp plan, or it's a new regulation, and then it's reviewed, suggestions are made, and it's finally cobbled together and sent to the council for final approval. As an example, I believe the mayor mentioned earlier, we put together a food truck regulation because the state of Florida mandated that we could not prohibit food trucks. It was decided that we need to regulate them. So that regulation tells where, when, and how food trucks can operate in Ponce Inlet. We've done development plans such as the Passetti Hotel. The Lighthouse Association came to us with a plan to renovate that hotel property and make it into a museum. So we reviewed that development plan, made some suggestions, and passed it on to the council for their approval. Finally, the board acts as a quasi-judicial body when we hear requests such as variances, special exceptions, and minor replats. Variances are by far the most prevalent item that we hear. And a variance is a property owner of Ponce Inlet coming to the board and asking for an exception to a rule in the LUDC. That exception may be a sideline or a back line that they want to violate, if you will, the rule for, say, a 30-foot setback with a shed or something like that. By nature, variances are very difficult to come by. The thought being, if there's something wrong with the rule, change the rule rather than start making exceptions to your rules. So we do listen to variances, but I would say they're very difficult to have decided in the applicant's favor. That, folks, is a very quick review of what the planning board's world is all about. The town website provides an agenda to our meetings, usually about a week in advance. And I would invite you to look at the agenda, and if there's a topic that you're interested in, join the planning board. And the meetings are obviously open to the public. We'd like to have you. We'd like to answer any of your questions at that time. If you have a question, a comment, or a criticism about a topic that comes before us. Again, and we will have questions, I think, at the end of the session here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Pete.
My name is Pete Finch. I'm newly elected chairman of the Code Enforcement Board. I've been on that board since, I believe, 2012. Our entire responsibility is to hear cases brought by the code enforcement officers. We only hear them once a homeowner or resident, for one reason or another, doesn't voluntarily come into compliance with the town's ordinances. And that's our entire operation. When we have a meeting, we listen to both the code enforcement officer and the homeowner, and it's up to the board to decide whether or not the homeowner is still in violation. We're not an advisory, we're a quasi-judicial board, meaning that we can fine homeowners who don't come into compliance. I don't think anybody on the board wants to put a fine on to somebody. And we have never fined anybody on their first visit. We always give them 2, 3, 4 weeks to come into compliance. But the ordinances are black and white. You need a permit to put a new hot water heater in. If you don't get the permit, you're in violation. And so there's nothing that we can do. We can't change the ordinances. We can only rule on whether or not the homeowner is in compliance. And that's our entire operation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stacy Bell. I'm the chair of the Cultural Services Historic Tree Recreation Advisory Board. I think that's the entire title. If I missed a word, please let me know. I really just want to first recognize there are a few members of our board that are also in attendance. So if you wouldn't mind rising for the fellow board members. I know one's in the front row right here. Raise your hand. Oh yes, I didn't even see those. My fellow board members, we have a great time doing a variety of things a lot less serious than the prior boards. We are a marriage of two different prior town boards. Originally we had a historic board as well as a tree parks board. And a few years ago we merged those boards together so we all sit and review different things from tree removal applications and land development code improvements to the less serious and kind of more fun park improvements, and including things like the pickleball court. And currently we're looking at Tillaquan Oaks. We lost the big gazebo there during the hurricane, so and looking to make some vegetation improvements there. So we love to hear your suggestions. I know we have a lot of green thumbs out there and people who are enjoying our parks. So we definitely welcome your involvement in any of our monthly meetings, or certainly reach out electronically if there's something on the agenda that you want us to know about. So, but thank you for having us, and thank you for all being here.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out. I'm honored to be here to speak to you about the Town of Ponce Inlet's Emergency Services Advisory Board. The Emergency Services Advisory Board is the newest board in the town. It was established in 2021, and it's made up of 5 primary seats and 2 alternates. Each seat requires knowledge of a specific discipline. So seat 1 is a law enforcement background. Seat 2 is a fire and EMS background. Seat 3 is an engineering background. Seat 4 is CPA or a financial background. Seat 5 is public relations, outreach, or human resources background. The alternates currently are occupied by 2 people. One that's a law enforcement background, one that's also fire and EMS background. The alternate seats have to be one of the backgrounds for those particular seats. I currently represent seat number 2, the Fire and Emergency Services.
And my background is I've been a resident in Ponce Inlet since 2007. I'm a firefighter paramedic. I've been for 26 years. And through my career, I've been able to work in logistics, fleet management, training division, emergency management. I have degrees in fire and emergency services management, emergency management, and emergency medical services management. Our board is purely advisory. We don't make any rules. We don't fine anybody or anything like that. We're tasked with research, analysis, and recommendations to the town council. And it's only in matters related to police, fire, and public works issues. And those areas are strategic master planning of infrastructure improvements, things like water, sewer, stormwater, roadways, walkways, and streetlights. Sounds like Mr. Griffin's going to keep us very busy this year with a lot of things coming our way. We also advise on town operational facility planning, so things like the renovation of the town hall. Also, capital purchases in excess of $50,000 come through our board for approval also, and recommendations to the council. And those are things for infrastructure improvements, fleet management, and equipment. We also advise on additions and deletions to operational staffing levels. Again, Mr. Griffin had mentioned he's going to put in for some more personnel, and that will come through our board, and we'll give a recommendation to the town whether to approve it or deny it. We also advise on the contracts and interlocal agreements related to the provisions of the services from these departments. So there's an interlocal agreement with the fire department for mutual aid, as the fire chief mentioned, about having the other agencies being able to come in automatically to respond to keep everything seamless. Some of the things since we've been here for a short time, but we have accomplished quite a few things. One is the vehicle exhaust removal system for the fire department. We've approved the replacement of SCBA's, the self-contained breathing apparatuses that firefighters wear, to upgrade them, and also the cardiac monitor and defibrillators for the paramedics. Also the interlocal agreement with the fire department for Volusia County. We addressed the Public Safety Marine Patrol Unit through Chief Glazier, the Town Hall office remodel expansion project, the interlocal agreements with the municipal services for public works, also the town-wide stormwater system cleaning that Mr. Griffin was talking about. And we have also been continuing to support the South Peninsula Drive sidewalk project from 2022 and 2023. Currently, our seat number 4 is vacant with the financial background, or a CPA. So if there's anybody here that has a background in finance and is interested or knows somebody that would be interested, please come out and